So the author says, Zakah. You can say that with a T too. Zakat. After the author, after the author, may Allah have mercy upon him, completed his discourse about purification and prayer. He finished what he wanted to say about purification and prayer. He merged those two into one book, the book of purification and prayer. Book here means a segment of a larger book. Like you have the book of prayer, the book of fasting, the book of zakat, the book of hajj, the book of marriage. All of those books could be contained in one book. So it's like a chapter. But each book has its own chapters, and the chapters have their own sections. So in the book we're reading, the author put purification and prayer in one book, the book of purification and prayer, instead of one for purification and one for prayer. Because this is a summary of obligatory knowledge. So after he said everything he wanted to say about purification and prayer, he began discussing zakat in accordance with the convention of his predecessors. He started discussing zakat like all the other scholars do when they finish talking about prayer, because the book of zakat comes after the book of prayer. Then the book of fasting, then the book of hajj. That's how you find them in the books of fiqh, jurisprudence. Zakat is a word applicable to that which is paid on account of wealth or personhood in a specific way. So here, this is a translation of the definition of zakat. He says zakat is a word applicable to that which is paid. So it's applicable to some money. The zakat is some money that's paid on account of wealth, because of having some kind of wealth. This doesn't mean you're quote unquote wealthy. It just means you have some sort of money, and the rules of zakat apply to that money you have. You might have some other kind of money, and the rules of zakat are not applicable to that. Like if you had a chicken farm, or you had a fish farm, unless you trade. If you're trading in those chickens or trading in those fish, then that's something else. So zakat is a word applicable to what is paid for having wealth. You're going to pay something because of some wealth that you have, or because of personhood. That's the way it's put here in this book. What that means is, or because of some obligatory support that you have, because you have some obligatory support of Muslim people. Since you have to support some Muslim people, you have to pay a zakat. So sometimes you're going to pay zakat because you have some sort of money. And sometimes you're going to pay zakat because you support people in an obligatory way. So all of that, inshallah, will be explained. And hopefully it's clear for you now. The author, may Allah have mercy upon him, said, clarifying the rules of zakat. Zakat is due as an obligation on specific types of wealth or personhood. So now you know what that means, or what's the intended meaning behind it. Zakat is money paid. It is money taken from some source of money and then paid to specific types of people, paid to specific recipients. So the author began by explaining the types of wealth which are subject to zakah. Hence he stated that paying zakat is obligatory on The word given here is livestock. Another word you could use is cattle, not with the meaning of cow though, with the meaning of livestock. And not anything that people might call livestock. Yani really the Arabic word is an'am, an'am, like Surah Al-An'am, the surah in the Quran. That's specifically, yani namely camels, cattle, yani cows. Cattle here means cows. Camels, cows, sheep, and goats. So no donkeys or anything like that, or mules or chickens or anything else. And of course not pigs. So that's one type of wealth that you have to pay zakat for. It is also obligatory to pay zakat on fruits. That's a broad word, as you know, because it doesn't mean all fruits. He tells us fruits of palm trees and grapevines. And even that needs to be zeroed in more, because namely dates and raisins, which are the dried versions of these palm tree fruits and these grapevine fruits. And then that's it, nothing more of all the kinds of fruits you can imagine. And they said here, and on staple crops. They said crops. And we talked about that. So we're going to say staple cereals or staple grains instead of crops, because the word crop includes the fruits. So this is a different category. And staple grains or staple cereals. Staple means eaten usually. Consumed during times of food sufficiency. That is exactly as the meaning of staple. So staple grains or cereals are that which people subsist on, yani that which ما يقوم به البدن. The scholar said that by which the body can stand. That means it is good. It's nutritious. It is nutrition. So you're not going to pay zakat for spices. So that's not nutritious. Because they support and sustain the human body, such as wheat, barley, and chickpeas. Not like spices. Contrary to that which is consumed for sustenance in times of food scarcity, like fenugreek, which is, if you want to look it up, you can see what it is. It's edible food, but the people don't eat it. The humans don't eat it, not unless they had to. So that's an exclusion. Things that are actually yani grains, they are actually grains, and they are actually nutritious. Nutritious here means if you eat them, you can stay alive. But the people don't eat them usually, then there's no zakat on that. This is what some scholars meant when they said the people grow them. This is what the people grow. Because the people don't grow and farm what they don't eat. It is also obligatory to pay zakat on the two precious metals, gold and silver, which is called bullion, when coined, or other than coined, yani just bullion. There is zakat on bullion. He said people usually put with chickpea recipes. Yeah, but they don't have to. If you just eat the chickpeas only, then you'll stay alive. Just like if you just had rice only, just rice, you'll stay alive. Or just wheat. So it is also obligatory to pay zakat on the two precious metals, gold and silver. It says here when coined. But that's not a condition, even if it's not coined, meaning it's not minted, made into coins. However, there is a difference in opinion regarding permissible jewelry that's made from gold and silver. Meaning, if you have permissible jewelry made of gold or silver, do you have to add this to your gold and silver to make sure you have the measure that makes you obligated to pay zakat? So if you had some golden things or silver things, and amongst what you had was jewelry, do you have to add the weight of your jewelry to the rest of your gold or silver to determine if you have what makes you obligated to pay zakat? So according to a saying, if it's permissible jewelry, then this is excluded. You don't have to put that into the weight of your gold or silver to determine if you have enough to pay zakat of gold or silver, if you're obligated. What's not permissible jewelry? Impermissible jewelry, like golden jewelry for a man. Don't they make men's rings? And they make women's rings too. So golden ring for a woman is permissible. Golden ring for a man, that's haram jewelry. So they don't have a difference about haram jewelry. They have a difference about permissible jewelry. It's not just a difference about jewelry. It's permissible jewelry. It says zakat is also obligatory on golden and silver ore. That means you pulled it out of the mine. So that's still gold or silver. So it's still included in what we're talking about now. Gold and silver. And golden and silver treasure trove. Still gold and silver. So zakat is due on gold and silver, except with a difference about permissible jewelry made of gold or silver. But then why mention the ore? And why mention the treasure trove? Because those have special judgment. So you have gold and silver. Zakat applies to these. But you have, first we can break this into two categories. Let's say general category and special category. General category is going to be, it's not ore and it's not treasure trove. So all the other gold and silver. That all has one judgment. Special category is golden and silver ore and golden and silver treasure trove. Treasure trove means you pulled the treasure out of the ground, for example, and it's in a chest, for example. Just like in those pirate movies and stuff. A real live treasure. So if it's made of gold or silver, then zakat applies to the gold and to the silver. Not to other things. What if there's diamonds in that treasure? Zakat doesn't apply to diamonds. What if it's full of diamonds, rubies, all sorts of very nice things? Zakat doesn't apply to any of those. So you have the special category, ore and treasure trove. And each one has its own rules. The rules for golden and silver ore, we'll see what we have. And the rules for treasure trove, we'll see what we have. So, an ore is gold or silver extracted from the place where Allah created them. So that means pulled out of the mine. Paying zakat on golden and silver ore is obligatory after the ore has been cleansed from soil. That means you're going to mine as much as you want to mine. By the time you finish mining, is that an amount that makes paying zakat an obligatory? Make paying zakat obligatory? So if it is, then you don't have to keep it for a year. All you have to do is just finish cleaning it. You finish cleaning this gold or silver, and you have an amount that makes paying zakat obligatory, then you have to pay the zakat. He says, treasure trove is gold or silver which is buried during the era of ignorance. Not after the era of ignorance. What marks the end of the era of ignorance? What marks the end of the era of ignorance is the dispatching of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So if it's a treasure that was buried since Muhammad was sent, then it has a different judgment. If it's a treasure that was buried before Muhammad was sent, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then if it's gold or silver, then you have to pay zakat for it. How could you know when it was buried? Like if it has dates on the coins or the face of the king, for example. Yes, so that's the category, the special category, the ore and the treasure trove. The ore and the treasure trove. As for the general category, you have to have a certain amount for an entire year, and then you'll pay zakat. We'll see, inshallah ta'ala. Zakat is also obligatory on trade articles. And more exactly, this means zakat is also obligatory on the value of trade articles, on their value. So trade articles are not paid as zakat. That's the Shafi'i school. Whatever it is, whatever your trade article is. So you might trade clothes, you might trade gold or silver, you might even trade gold or silver. It's your trade article. So then the zakat is due on the value of your trade articles. So what does that mean? I hope I didn't make a confusion by saying you might trade gold or silver. Take that out for now, just so in case if that's confusing for you. Don't worry about that. What might you trade in? You might trade in clothing. You might trade in all sorts of things. Maybe you are a trader in all sorts of things. You might have like many crates on one of those huge barges that go across the ocean. And you trade in many, many things. So the zakat is not due on the items themselves. Rather, the zakat is due on the value of those items. If you have the value of gold or silver zakat, if you have the value by your trade, you have the value of the zakat of gold or the zakat of silver, then you're going to pay gold or silver. And that's an extreme summarization for you of the case. It needs to be, what I just said to you needs to be unraveled. But hopefully it's very clear for you now because we repeated it so many times through these weeks. So it says zakat is also obligatory on trade articles, which are commodities a person conducts trade with to gain profit. As in the case of selling clothing, sugar, salt, horses, and what is similar. As for the zakat paid for personhood, yani, as for the zakat that you're going to pay because you have dependents. So you understanding that right, I'm saying. Because you're obligated to support people, that means you're paying money out. Because you're obligated to support people, you have to pay other money out. You have to pay zakat for being obligated to support some people. That's called zakatul fitr, and it will be discussed later. After the author, may Allah have mercy upon him, mentioned the types of wealth on which paying zakat is obligatory. The types of wealth for which paying zakat is obligatory. He began discussing the conditions under which zakat becomes due on each of them. So now you know the types of money targeted by zakat. Cattle, according to what you know. Fruits, according to what you know. Grains, bullion. That's 4 types of money there that you can break into parts. And the value of your trade, which we didn't define trade here, by the way, in our session right now. Don't take those words for granted. Like when I say trade, maybe you're doing something, maybe you're a business person, you might call that trade. It's not what I'm talking about. So that's 5 right there, the value of the trade. And then because of having to support bodies. So the money that's targeted by zakat has just been mentioned for you. So after the author mentioned the types of wealth for which paying zakat is obligatory, he began discussing the conditions under which zakat becomes due. So you know the types of money now. Now you need to know the conditions for each type. So you would say, this is why, Yani, imagine you're a person doesn't have a lot of knowledge. You learn what they call the 5 pillars, the 5 most important parts of Islam. You learn that the Shahada and performing the prayer and paying the zakat and fasting Ramadan and making pilgrimage to the house once in a lifetime if you're able. Okay. And you haven't learned any rules for these, not a lot of details. So you learned your Shahada, you learned some basic belief, explaining the meaning of the Shahada, and you learned some purification in prayer because you have to pray every day. Maybe you were a new Muslimah and you started taking off your uh, nail polish and making correct purification. Uh, and you learn how to pray, so you're starting to pray, and you don't have a lot of knowledge. And then one day you get some money. So you should cross your mind to say, do I have to pay zakat for this money? So then you would ask, I have money. Do I have to pay zakat for my money? So then the one who's answering you, if he knows the right answers, he should say, what kind of money do you have? So you say, I have raisins. Would you say that though? That's money though. Well, let's say. So he said, my money is raisins. Then he's going to say, yeah, there's zakat on raisins. Then you'd say, for example, how do I do it? And he's going to tell you, if you have a certain amount after your harvest, you have to pay the zakat. Or you might say, I came into some sheep. So he'd say, yeah, that's your money. Yeah, you have the zakat on this. So then you should say, how? And then he tell you, if you have 40 of them for a whole year, then you have to pay one. One that's like this and like that. So after he mentioned what monies are targeted by zakat, he started to mention the conditions for each case. Question: what did you mean when you said that zakat is due on the value of your trade, not the item itself? Meaning, well, let's say you trade in sneakers. That's your trade. You're in the sneaker business, so you're not going to pay sneakers as zakat. Or maybe you sell sunglasses, so you're not going to pay sunglasses as zakat. You understand? Rather, you're going to value your business, your trade, according to the rules that I didn't mention yet, and I'm not going to go all the way into now. If, according to your valuing, you have the value of paying zakat of gold or silver, you'll have to pay the zakat of gold or silver. Amin wa fiq. So he said the first quotum nisab for camels, i.e., the first quantity of camels subject to zakat is 5. So it would be nice for me if this were a new paragraph. It was something I meant to do today, but I didn't get a chance. I won't say I didn't get a chance, but I didn't get to it. Because there's another translation of Al-Qawl Al-Jaliyy. I was going to do both of them at the same time. We'll just look at them. Maybe next week, if Allah enables me to set it up first, then we can look at both of them and benefit like that. Inshallah. He said the first quotum for camels is 5. So the first quotum or quota for camels is 5. The first quantity of camels that's subject to zakat is 5. The first quantity. So, all right, we already said the zakat is due on camels, cows, sheep, and goats. Perhaps it slipped me to read there. He said whether the camel has 1 hump or 2 humps, because it's still a camel. Cows, that's going to be, even if it's water buffalo, that's a type of cow. And sheep and goats, that's one category. Sheep and goats is one category. In books of fiqh, in the books of Islamic jurisprudence, they would say there's 3 types of animals that zakat is due on: camels, cows, and ghanam. Ghanam means sheep and goats. I never found any translation for that, by the way. Bovine doesn't work. And maybe there's some other words. Those don't work. But if you find one, let me know. So the first quotum of camels, or 4 camels, is 5. So that means if you had 1 camel, then you don't have to pay zakat. Or 2, or 3, or 4, you don't have to pay zakat. If you had 5 camels, then this is the first number, but there's another condition after having the number 2. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. You said you are downsizing items like clothes, crystal, paintings, books, coins. When you sell it, you pay zakat on the value. And that's not exact. Yeah, let me address your answer here. You said you are downsizing items, or maybe you're saying it and I don't understand the way you're saying it. Maybe. So you said you are downsizing items like clothes, crystal, paintings, books, and coins. So really, I don't know what downsizing means. When you sell it, you pay zakat on the value. Not exactly like that, because you need to do your trading for a whole year. Also, that's a condition. So it's not only because you sold stuff and made a profit that you have to pay zakat on it. If you continued this cycle for a year and you have a certain value, not any value, the value of gold or silver, zakat. How much do you pay zakat on gold? How much gold do you have to have? And then if you had it, how much you have to pay? How much silver do you have to have? And if you have it, how much you have to pay? So you would value your trade after a year. If it's worth those, I'm still summarizing, then you have to pay like that. As if you had gold, you'll pay the zakat of gold. As if you had silver, you'll pay the zakat of silver. If you stop before the year is over, you don't have to pay any zakat. What if you just did that trading for 6 months and then you stop? There's no zakat on it. Okay, barakallahu fikum. Yeah, also, I wasn't sure if that was a question too, or if it was a statement. Okay. So the first quotum of camels, the first quantity of camels subject to zakat is 5. What's the second one? If we stick to the script here, then it's not here. Because he goes on to say the first quotum is 30 head of cows for having cows, and 40 head of sheep or goats for having sheep or goats. Okay, so if I have 29 cows, I don't have to pay zakat. If I have 39 sheep or goats, I don't have to pay zakat. So the first quotum for the camels is 5. And the first for the cows is 30. And the first for the ghanam is 40. So saying first here implies that there's a second. And that's the case. There's a second quotum. And is there a third? Depends on what you're dealing with. They don't all have the same thing. So take that for now. This is just introduction to obligatory knowledge, make you understand. the case, the base of the case. If you have 5 camels, and he didn't say yet what I'm going to say now, and you had them for a whole year, or you had 30 cows, and you had those same 30 for a year, or you had 40 ghanam, you had those same 40 for a whole year, then you're going to have to pay zakat. Zakat is not due prior to this set quotum. That is, no zakat is due before the camels, cattle, or sheep and goats reach the aforementioned numbers. I think it's clear, inshallah. If you want to ask, go ahead, please. Now he's going to say to you what I just said to you. In order for zakat to be obligatory for these animals, a lunar year must elapse after having the quotum. A lunar year on those same 5 camels, for example. So if you slaughtered one and fed your family with it, or you sold one, or one of them died before the year, then there's no zakat on these. It's like we said about the trading. If you traded for 6 months and decided to stop, there's no zakat. If you sold one of those camels, you can. It's not haram. Or even just give it as a gift. It's not haram. And there's another condition. The livestock must have grazed in a public pasture. Public means not private property. Anyone can go there. Which means that you're not spending money to feed your animals. Yes, question. Hold on. I'll give you the mic. Yeah. Okay, you can take the mic.
Assalamu alaikum, Shaykh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
So you said here that a lunar year must have elapsed, right?
Yes.
So say, like you said, you had 4 camels for the first 6 months, and then you acquired another camel, like someone gifted it to you. Now you have 5, for example.
Yeah.
Now you hit that quotum. So does your time start from the time you actually hit that quotum? So after 6 months and a day, all of a sudden you have 5. So that's where the time starts from counting going forward.
The time's going to start from when you got that 5th camel.
Okay. And then say for the next few months, and then, like you said, one died, so you lost it again. Does that kind of put you back on from starting over again?
Yes.
Once you hit? Okay.
Yeah, that's going to cut your year.
Okay, got it.
Your year starts when you get the 5th camel, and if you lose one of them, your year is cut.
So essentially, you could keep doing this happen to you throughout the whole time without you ever having to pay zakat, then you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the religion's easy. I mean, Wafiq, the religion's not strict here. It's easy. Although, yani, probably, because if he has 5 camels, what we have to pay, he would only have to pay a sheep. And sheep is way cheaper than a camel anyway. So if he wanted to just get rid of a camel so he doesn't have to pay a sheep, he's going to lose out money here.
Shaykh.
He can, though. If he wants to, he can. Yes.
Who right now? One was trying to pay that zakat. Who you paying to right now?
Any of the 8 qualified recipients that are mentioned in the Quran. If none of them exist for whoever wants to pay zakat, then he holds it. He doesn't spend it. He holds it until one of them appears, and then he pays that one.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And that's so easy. I don't know. Some people like this is their question, but it seems to them like it's a great calamity here. I can't find anybody. What am I going to do? You just hold it. That's it. Don't spend it. So, in order for zakat to be obligatory, a lunar year must elapse after having the quotum, and the livestock must have grazed in a public pasture, i.e., the livestock must have grazed by its owner. Yani, looks like the word bin here should be here. Must have been grazed by its owner or his proxy. That means the one who's working on his behalf. In a public pasture, so that means he doesn't pay to feed his animals. A a public pasture that is communally shared among the people and that has no specific owner. Therefore, no zakat is due on animals whose feed is brought to them, or their fodder, if you want, whose fodder is brought to them. That means you're paying to feed your animals. Or that graze on their own. Because some of those animals, if you let them go graze, they'll come back. There's no zakat on those either. The livestock must not be working animals, such as animals used for transporting water or plowing. So that means, here, as he says, animals that are put to work, such as plowing animals, are not subject to zakat. So if you had 5 camels, but one of them you worked it, even by putting it up for rent, whoever needs a working camel, you have one for rent. That's a working animal. Then it's like you have 4 camels. There's no zakat here. All right. So let's stop there. He wants to talk about what's due. So we'll start talking about that next week, insha'Allah ta'ala. He said, if I don't find any eligible zakah recipient in my area, instead of holding it, can I pay it in my back home or any other place where there are people who can receive it? The zakat funds are not taken to another town. The zakat funds are for the town. Each town has its own zakat funds. There might be other sayings though, but that's what I can tell you with confidence and what I could back up. Barakallahu fikum. Yani, don't forget sometimes a person has an answer, but he just wants to do something else. I'm not saying you, but sometimes a person has an answer, he just wants to do something else, and then he doesn't find how he can do something else, so it's like he doesn't have an answer. But he does have an answer. Yeah, so your question was fine, but I'm just saying that for benefit. So the rule is like what I just mentioned for you. If you don't find any eligible zakat person, you just hold it until you find one. Barakallahu fikum. You're welcome. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdik.
Hold on, Shaykh. I saw
Wa alaikum assalam.
we was talking about I think last week about animals that are not eligible to be repaid, like pigs, dogs, whatever.
Yeah.
Say you have a dog that herds in your sheep.
Yeah.
And goes on your animal dog goes on another person's property, and that person kills the dog. How would he be paid for that dog?
As far as I know, there's no payment for this dog because it doesn't have a monetary value.
So what should one do that ever happened?
He has to repent. But you mean the one who had the dog? He doesn't have to get a new dog. He's gonna have to get a new dog. The one who killed this dog, I don't even know if he has an excuse. Let's say without an excuse. If he killed the dog without an excuse, he'll have to repent. If he had an excuse, then he had an excuse.
All right.
But it doesn't have monetary value, so there's no money to give for it.
Now that brother or sister, whoever may be, the one who killed the dog, and they said, well, I can replace that dog for you.
If he wants to, he doesn't have to.
I don't have to. Okay, that's all. Thank
you. Because I just want to emphasize here, because maybe this is the first time some of you are hearing what I'm saying. Because religiously, a dog does not have a monetary value. If something doesn't have a monetary value, then you can't pay money for it. An example of something that doesn't have monetary value is wine. So what if someone had like a lot of wine? If you wanted to sell it, you can make a lot of money. Or all sorts of liquors. Like let's say as a bar full of all sorts of liquors. You can make lots and lots and lots of money from all of that. And then it was destroyed. Somebody came in with a baseball bat and destroyed all of his wine without breaking the bottles so that we don't mix things. He didn't break any of the bottles and he destroyed all the wine. He poured it all out, for example. Then there's no money to be paid here. Because wine doesn't have monetary value because it's filth. It's najis. Also, a dog is najis, has no monetary value. It's filth, living filth, like a pig. Pig does not have monetary value. Also, one or two grains, like if you had 1 grain of rice or 2 grains of rice, that doesn't have a monetary value. If someone destroyed your 1 or 2 grains, if someone destroyed your 1 or 2 grains of rice, he doesn't have anything to pay you back. There's no money for that. Yeah, I said he destroyed all his wine without destroying the bottles, though, so that we don't mix things. Because the bottles could have a monetary value. The containers themselves might have monetary value, but not the liquid inside. So if he destroyed all the liquid and he didn't destroy the bottles, did I say he went in there with a baseball bat? He didn't use it. He just took the top off and poured all the wine out. Right before he used the baseball bat, he remembered, say, oh, wait a minute, I might have to pay for these bottles. Let me not break them. So he just dumped out all the wine. He said, does a monkey fall under the dog and pig as well? No. A monkey might have monetary value. It's possible. I don't know if they all do, but it is possible to purchase an ape because you can use them for guarding. And you can train them to do many things, actually. So that is similar to what I have done to someone, destroy their weed and pay for their narcotics. And not paid for it. Yeah, not paid. But that one, though, that one, the weed, that one might have monetary value, though. The reason the wine doesn't have monetary value is because it's najis, but the weed is not najis. Yeah, because you could use it for medicine. What if a person was a doctor and he wanted to buy some for medicine, to make medicine? Yeah, then it would be a case of using something that's permissible to buy in an invalid or in a haram way. Like, what if a person bought grapes so they can make wine out of it? Isn't that permissible to buy the grapes? Fundamentally, yes, but he can't make wine out of it and then drink the wine. That's haram. So the grapes are still going to have monetary value, although there's a forbidden application for them. Just because something might have a forbidden application doesn't mean that doesn't have monetary value. Same thing for weapons. What if someone has knives and guns? Going to be still having monetary value, although it's not permissible to take those and then assault people unjustly. So what's the judgment when a person buys something so that he can use it for something haram? Then it's haram for him to buy it, and it's not invalid, though. It's not invalid that he bought it. It's haram that he bought it. If it has monetary value and he bought it to do something haram with it, then that was haram, but it was still a valid transaction. I didn't hear, by the way, that weed does have monetary value, but I'm just saying be careful here because it might. And also has other applications because you can make paper out of it and you can make rope out of it. So I don't know that the substance itself is something that can't be sold. And besides the medicinal application, there's other things you can do with it too.
Shaykh, you said something about making paper and stuff out of it. Now,
Yeah.
I remember I was I seen something in a washing gel that had hemp in it. The one had used that. What I did, I threw it out because I didn't know what it was, so I threw it away. So one had used it.
If it doesn't make him intoxicated, then that's not haram.
Okay.
What is the hair gel? It's just putting hair gel in his hair. There's no najasa in there. And doesn't intoxicate him. There's nothing haram there.
Okay. Because I know now they have got these things with these places they buy these municipal things that they put that stuff in to give people relief.
Yeah. Plus, sometimes they might be using these words but they're not using these words with religious judgments in mind. Just like how people use the word alcohol. sometimes they use the word alcohol doesn't mean what we mean. When we say alcohol, we mean this liquid that comes from the fermentation, fermenting the fruits and the vegetables. So sometimes the alcohol is that, like the ether alcohol. It is that. If you look it up, they're going to tell you they got it from corn. This means that this is basically is a type of khamr. So it's going to be najis. But a lot of times they use the word alcohol only as a chemical name. They don't have any religious judgment in mind when they use that word. So it's not always because the word alcohol is there means that there's najasa in there or that it's going to make you intoxicated. And also they might be putting the word hemp on something or another word on something doesn't mean that it's going to be haram. Yeah, question.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Something that's lightly fermented, is this considered najasis?
Say again, please.
If something is lightly fermented, is this considered najasis?
It will be najasa if consuming it is intoxicating.
Because they sell that.
Not the word fermentation. That's not what makes it najasa. The word fermentation. If consuming if it's a liquid, if consuming this liquid is intoxicating, that's going to be najasa. That's the answer to your question. Even if it's only a little bit and it's not enough to intoxicate you, but if it was more, it could, then it's najasa, even a little bit.
Like they sell the kombucha. I'm not sure if I'm saying it properly or whatever in the stores, the grocery stores. So I was asking about this issue because this is sold. So I don't know if a person
It's going to be najasa if it's intoxicating. Now it's possible that they took an intoxicating liquid and then contaminated another liquid with it. So I don't know. You're not going to know if it's contaminated or not. Like you can get from the market, they say some fermented tea or fermented this or fermented. That's not the word fermented. That's the issue. It's the intoxication if it's liquid, intoxicating liquid.
Okay. Barakallahu feek.
سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك